Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. How are you today, sir?
I'm hanging in there, Kimasabi.
Hanging on. Okay.
I am indeed. Yesterday wasn't a terribly busy day. I mean, there was stuff going on, but I still get a feeling, Bill, that something is on the horizon. You know, there's a lot of there is some strange stories. I don't know whether you heard about what happened in Nepal. Did you hear about what happened in Nepal? A catastrophic floods and mudslides triggered by a high-altitude glacial collapse killed over 270 people. Bill, there's probably going to be a lot more. If you saw these floods on TV, it's just a massive wall of mud that came down the hill. They said there were 1,000 missing. No one. That's no surprise. Again, if you see the video, but you know, Bill. They're saying, well, you know, I heard an expert say, well, you know, it could be a climate change type thing that caused the sudden increase in temperature that melted that glacier. And I'm thinking, wait a second.
Isn't there a volcano there?
Well, no, I'm thinking it could have been some kind of a weapon test. It was in northern China. You know, what if there was a weapon test and they set off some kind of a hot device, you know, would that do it?
Well, that would do it. There's also, you know, if we're not paying attention to the natural nature of things, I mean, when they go, global warming, somebody is cooking we're spewing gas in the air. Global warning. Yeah, well, here's the warning. Global warming is a natural effect in the way that and I'm not going to get into the science, but just, you know, you've got a spinning ball that doesn't spin perfectly. While it spins around, it tips to the left, it tips to the right over hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years. We are entering a time in the natural rotation and tilt of the axis where we are getting some global warming. Not in the sense that a Democrat is trying to pitch to you. This is God-made. This is how this planet works and has worked ever since it's been around.
The other stuff that they talk about is called weather. You know.
That's all part of it.
Oh, it's warmer today. Well, yeah, it'll be colder next week. Hang in there. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we could be going into a milder winter, per se, in the fact that I remember scraping a lot of ice and snow last year periodically. You know, think back to the 70s. Do you remember when the news was, and I think Gore was around then, it's climate change, you know, and they were trying to blame climate change on mankind.
They were also talking about global cooling back then.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to go into an ice age, but that didn't work out. So somebody
there
said,
are 7 years. There are 7-year cycles, but the one I'm talking about is a big bad boy. And you know, you look at the El Niños, everything. Anyway, without going into all of that, it is a natural occurring phenomena, and over time, we probably will see some glacial melting and the oceans rising. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means it's the natural course of things. Look at the continents. Mm-hmm. We're witnessing, down in Africa, a split down there that's happening, you know, and...
You know, that being said, though, we're talking about China, and they're always testing stuff, and they're not telling the world about it. If they set off some kind of a nuclear device above ground, per se, I mean, I'm just saying, or even underground, even if they have some device that they've set off under a mountain somewhere, that could have an effect on the surface temperature and make this stuff. There are a number of reasons this could have happened, but the media, of course, because they thrive on sensationalism. That's how the media works. I mean, they want you to be glued to their channel. That's all they want you to do. I mean, this whole Lindsay Clancy case up in Massachusetts, I mentioned this the other day. That was a terrible tragedy, but there are terrible tragedies similar to that happening around the country and the world all the time. You just don't hear about it because most of the time the media doesn't need to go to those things to get your attention because there's a lot happening naturally in the world. But when things kind of slow down and they're looking for something to pick up on, many times they'll do exactly what they did. They'll go to this story. Now, by the way, I think that's going to the jury pretty soon. And up in Massachusetts, the burden of proof, would you believe, is on the prosecution to prove that she wasn't insane, and as opposed to other states where the burden of proof many times is on the defense. So I think, Bill, I could be wrong on this, but I think all they need is like one dissenter in the jury, and she'll get off. When I say get off, she's not going home. She's not going home. If she is found guilty, she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. If she, quote, gets off, if they say she was guilty by reason of insanity, she'll spend a good portion of her life in an insane asylum or a mental institution of some kind, to be more gentle. And the other thing is, this is going to follow her no matter what she does for the rest of her life. First of all, she's in a wheelchair now because she tried to kill herself. And people said, well, look she had to be nuts. She killed her kids and she jumped out the window. And I have said, well, she should have started the other way around and saved the lives of the kids. If she was so depressed, why did she have to kill the kids first? And I remind people of this. She killed one of the kids. The phone rang. It was her husband. She talked to her husband, not letting on what she'd already done. Then she hung up the phone and went and killed the other two kids, and then she jumped out the window. And I said, well, the reality of the gruesomeness of the actual act of killing her own children may have set in after she did it. She may not have planned to jumping out the window. That may not have been in the cards. But, if you consider how vile and how one-on-one, how very personal that act of murder for those kids is, it took them 60 seconds a child to strangle those little people. And God knows they must have struggled. They had to
well, you're going to fight for your life.
Oh, absolutely. It's instinct, even the little ones. And
a temporary rage of insanity, how long does that last? You just said 60 seconds a child.
Yeah.
And then there's, you had to think about it and then
plan it.
Plan it and get beyond. You're already, then that's premeditated. It's beyond, a sudden instinct and then reasoning kicking in. You've already gotten past that and you've reasoned, hey, it's a good idea. I'm going to do it. So,
well, Bill, and if she had any questions about it, you think that after she did the first one and got a phone call, that would have been a cooling off period, and she might have had second thoughts about continuing the crime, the heinous crime, but she didn't.
Why did she? What? Unless she was transposing hate of somebody else into these children.
Well, yes, there's a lot of reasons why she could have done it, and maybe her husband had an affair.
But it still doesn't matter.
Well, her husband did get remarried. This happened. The kids, I think, were killed in 2023, and the guy's already remarried. So he may have had. Who knows? I'm not gonna even suggest that. It may have been a coincidence, but there may have been a reason. But still, you don't kill the kids. You can take the kids and drop them off at an orphanage. You can drop them off, I'm sure, at your local church. I mean, there's a lot of those kids could still and should still be alive today. But her answer was to destroy those lives. And that's
well, they're discounting the value of the kids. They're just collateral damage for something else. And she killed them. And there's no logical reason for the children's death. It was a painful, gruesome death, and that's on her plate. But, you've got liberal judges out there, lawyers that go, well, when you consider this, that doesn't bode well with me.
Well, it will be interesting to see, where this jury takes the case. Although, see again, this is noise. There's
Yeah.
so much happening in our world that directly affects all of us, and
Well,
we're not being shown that.
and no, we're not. The news will go for the other distraction, and there will be another distraction in the Nepal area very soon. That, from what I understand, that glacier that broke off at 5,500 feet and dropped straight down, it was a shelf that there's like a melt underneath, like when you see avalanches of ice in Alaska, from normal big chunks going. Well, if you got this big glacier plate that's moving forward and all of a sudden it slides and drops, and everyone was going, oh, it's an earthquake. The earthquake was the thud from when it hit the ground. It was that big of a plate. But the bigger problem, because of mismanagement and everything going on in China, is that big dam that they got pretty far upstream. The water is going over it. It's overflowing. They haven't managed that. And so get ready to see some more flooding there that's going to be washing mud and everything else down. If that thing gives way, there's a problem there, and they haven't addressed it.
Well, we have a mudslide in Nepal. We have this mother who kills her kids in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Boy.
And in the meantime, we have the war in Ukraine, which has been forgotten by the world. It was on top of everybody's menu back a couple of years ago. They were applauding Zelensky in Congress. It was a big deal. We were sending him arms and money. And now it's like, is that war still going on? Or is it really? My gosh. That's the kind of, this is stuff that's really happening in our world. And by the way, Russia is getting more serious about where they're putting their attacks. This talk, by the way, of Russia challenging NATO countries. And if that happens, are we going to be drawn into that war too?
Well, you know what? This is almost revelations here when you talk about, all the floods, the disease, the famine, the pestilence, the invasion. I forget what it is, that stupid that moth that's out there, the spotted one with the red eyes. I killed one in the yard the other day.
One of those stink bugs or whatever.
No, it's not a sting. It's a moth.
Yeah, I know.
Kills the plants and everything. And I'm like, oh, great.
Has it hit you
spotted
already?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Huh?
They're out where you are now?
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're out where I am. And I'm sitting there going, this is, but, with what's going on, you look at the Ukraine. When we came in to help them out, what's the first thing we did? We sent hundreds of millions of dollars there, and they were seen leaving with suitcases full of money and buying Maseratis and whatnot and everything else.
Are you talking about the lanternfly?
The lanternfly, that's it.
Yeah.
The spotted lanternfly.
Yeah.
I think it's like black and white, but it's got the red eyes.
Yes, of course it does. It's evil.
It's got those red eyes. It's evil. Don't touch it. But there's a lot of weird things that have come over from China. We've imported them, or maybe they were purposeful. I don't know, but somebody's not doing their job somewhere, and they've come over. But again,
when a scientist on TV, and I saw this happen, when a scientist is asked, I guess there's a name for this, and I can't remember what it is, an expert on insects, and they'll usually come on TV and say, well, you're seeing a lot of this bug, but it's actually very good for our crops, and we should leave that one alone, and if you see it, to kind of shush it away. But I saw an expert on bugs say, if you see the spotted lanternfly, step on it. I thought, well, that kind of sums that up, not terribly, there's not a lot in their corner. The spotted, and you're right, Bill, that came in from China. What else are they making that they're sending over in their stuff? That's why I'm all in favor of taking all of our manufacturing back to the USA. Everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We need to build here again, made in America and bought and sold by Americans. You want our goods because our stuff was, top of the line. And everybody wanted it. And But, little liberals out there, you can't charge them a tariff. Yes, they can charge us a tariff for their cheap Temu and, Alibaba stuff. Hey, you
Would you
get that
pay?
and go, oh, it looks so good. Huh?
Would you pay $100 more for a TV that was made in the U.S.? If you had a TV that's $300 and it's made in China, or $400 and it's made in Detroit, what would you do?
Well, I'd get the one made in Detroit because at one time, American ingenuity, American electronics, American quality stood for something. Yes, we had union, workers and wages, but some companies went away because maybe the union bosses got a little more greedy. The working guys needed somebody to represent them, but they were taking money in the. So, anywhere that somebody can screw somebody, they can. But we need to get. I think we're over that. I still see a place for unions. I still see a place for jobs and made in America. Let's bring back, manufacturing here.
I agree, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing we've got to do. We still have the resources, the know-how. Definitely, we have, and we can do it a lot better, quicker, cleaner, and more cost effectively.
You remember the last year, Bill? Not last year. I'm sorry. About 6 weeks ago, that guy out in the California golf course that wanted to kill Trump. They found him with the rifles and
has he been given the Purple Heart now?
Well, no. We got an update, and Jesse Waters had the report yesterday. Listen.
Fox News alert. We just got a major update on the guy showed up at Trump's golf course with a gun. Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel has the details. Mike.
Jesse, disturbing revelations from the notebooks of an armed suspect arrested at President Trump's Los Angeles golf course. Authorities say that includes the First Lady's schedule and hundreds of pages on Secret Service agents and sketches of the course. The suspect is Janine John Tail, 38 years old, a decorated Marine veteran from Downey, California. Tail appeared before Judge John Lonergan in Los Angeles today. Tail was wearing a suicide smock for the preliminary hearing. That's where prosecutors revealed new details about his arrest on July 31st. The judge calling the allegations against Tail, quote, alarming in this day and age with the violence that is creeping into our everyday lives, especially with the partisanship with the political climate. Prosecutors say Tail had several notebooks with 208 pages of drawings, lists of Secret Service schedules, details of individual security members, and copies of Melania Trump's schedule. He had also allegedly done research about, quote, going off the grid. Tail is charged in a federal criminal complaint with possession of an unregistered short-barreled rifle. That charge could earn him up to 10 years behind bars. He also faces a range of state charges as well. The rifle was recovered in a search of his home, along with a 9mm pistol, body armor, high-capacity magazines, radios, and a gold badge. After being detained for taking photos and video of security while wearing an earpiece ahead of President Trump's visit. The suspect pleading not guilty. He's being held on $250,000 bail as the FBI, Secret Service, and ATF still work to figure out his motive. Jesse?
Amazing stuff, though. He looked like a Secret Service guy. He had the earpiece in. He had a badge which resembled a Secret Service badge, but it was a bail enforcement badge. I don't know how he got that. Maybe you can get those things in any store. I don't know.
Gee, Jim, I got a 3D printer in the other room. You think you might be able to print one of those?
Yeah, probably. But his was metal.
You know what? There's a 3D engraver, metal. You can.
Really?
Anything that, yes, they have that. You can make little statues. You can make little badges. You can make anything you want. If you got anywhere from $500 to $2,000, you can pretty well have your own little 3D plant in your basement.
Huh. Really?
And make gun parts, too.
Reminds me of the line from the movie The Treasure of Sierra Madre when the guy says, badges? Badges? I don't
make our own stinking badges.
Anyway, So that's a disturbing piece of news, about this guy.
What?
He was there to obviously attack the president.
How did he get the schedule of Melania Trump?
I don't know.
Who in the White House that is on her security detail?
Is it online, Bill? Can you get the first lady's
Well, I don't know.
schedule?
And if it is online, why do you, see, now that's, public disclosure. But do we really disclose all the nuances of where somebody's going to be at what time and schedules and agendas?
I think that's kind of dumb, if you ask me, with a capital D. I'm just saying. It's not very smart.
It's
you're trying
not.
to protect the guy, and you say, "How we're protecting this guy? We're making sure he's going to be safe, and he'll be at so and so at 3
synchronize
o'clock."
your watches.
Yeah.
Yes, he will be at the golf course he'll be pulling up in a white limo instead of a black one. Did you know that? Okay.
Unbelievable. Anyway, I just thought that was a fascinating little tidbit of news. Another story that you should keep an eye on, another piece of distraction. And again, it's distraction. Again, the Kennedy Center is still in the news. First, President Trump said, I want my name on it because I'm going to refurbish it from top to bottom. And it's going to be a 2-year process. And we're going to get private funds. And it's going to be beautiful, a show place when it's finished. But they're putting my name on it, too. It'll be the Donald J. Trump, John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Mm-hmm. And so the left they got their tighty-whities in a knot, and they said, oh, yeah, Donald Trump's going to put his name on it. Well, he can't do that. We don't want your money. We want his name off the wall. So they got a leftist judge to say, he's got to take his name off the wall because he's a conservative and he runs that MAGA organization there. So take the name off the wall, which they did. They went out and they took the name off the wall again. But along with that went the funds to refurbish it. Well, now the Justice Department has threatened to demolish the Kennedy Center if it cannot close it for 2 years to renovate it to make it safe. So I guess the Justice Department controls it. I didn't know that they had that kind of control for buildings, but apparently in this case they must. And it looks like they're between a rock and a hard spot now. They have the funding. Everything was going great. And the left does what it does so well. It stuck its nose into the business of the well-oiled machine, and they clogged it up. Clogged it up. And now it looks like if they don't get this thing fixed, and by the way, Bill, last week a judge said, just as a point, a little aside, that President Trump's name could go back. So they're putting his name back on the wall, but they still haven't got the money now. They haven't got the funds to repair it.
Well, you can smell what's going on here. Can you not? They're going to hold it up for the 2 years. And then they're hoping that the midterms are going to take the midterms. And then they're hoping that they will take the office and hold everything they gain in the midterms if they do gain it.
I think that's what their goal was, Bill, but I think the Justice Department just threw a curveball.
Well, yeah, let's hope so, because, what they were going to do is say, and we're bringing back the Kennedy Center. We don't care that we can't afford to do it. We're going to take the money out of your children's welfare, whatever, Because you look at the national debt. Now, I'm not saying Republicans aren't guilty, but where did Joe Biden find all this money to give to Afghanistan and do everything? It was his wants that we really got into. We were in serious trouble anyway, but he made it worse, far worse, because there are so many promissory notes out there, and they would just dig the hole deeper.
Hey, if you get a moment to check out my book, it's at Amazon. It's called Ad Infinitum. It's a really neat book.
It's neat, man.
Yeah, and
cool.
I appreciate you taking a gander at it. Just go to Amazon. Yeah, it's a gander. You can take 2 ganders if you want.
He's from the Northeast up there.
Yeah, I'm from Boston. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You take a gander and look at the book, and it's called Ad Infinitum. It's a science fiction, sci-fi kind of book. You'll like it. It's not political. It's not. And I don't want you to think that if you're a lefty who is tuned into the show and you're a little disgusted, but you need a good book to read, it'll work. really, because it doesn't take sides. It's just a
Yeah.
entertaining book. Also, it helps us figure out how many people are listening to our program, because every time we mention the book and its availability on Amazon.com, written by yours truly, ad infinitum, you like I do that, it spikes. Our numbers spike. I can check the website and see.
It's a magical word that makes our
Yeah.
numbers go up. Ad
It does.
infinitum.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's it called again, Bill? I missed that.
Huh?
What was
Who?
the name? What was it called?
What?
The book.
Ad infinitum?
Yes. Thank you very
Is that what
much.
you wanted?
Yes, that's what I want. I'll send you a check.
Thank you.
Anyway, like and share the show. Tell your friends about Jim and Bill. It's another day. You want to email us? It's mail@jimandbill.com. So here's the story. You got this big lawsuit, and everybody's huffing and puffing. You're going up against this big social media operation. You're gonna put it to them. There'll be months of on-camera back and forth on television. It'll be on court TV. It'll be everywhere because it's a big story. And then, out of the clear blue, this social media organization, to give you an idea of how much discretionary cash they must have, they decide we're going to settle. Do they settle for $1 million?
Oh, no.
Do they settle for $10 million?
No.
$100 million?
No.
Oh, then they must have settled for $500 million.
Not even close.
Well, Bill, how much did they settle for?
Pocket change for, Zuckerberg, $16 million or $1 billion.
It says 17 on mine. It says
I had 16 yesterday.
have here.
$16 billion.
I have
Well, maybe he upped it $1 billion. I don't know.
17 to 18 billion on my sheet in front of me. So in the past 24 hours, they must have said, "Hey, look it, you guys have been really good sports about that. We're going to throw in another billion."
But they don't. They can just donate it and that's it. They're done. I don't know. Maybe he can't write it off, but it doesn't matter. What they are guilty of, the brainwashing because of all the diatribe that just viral stuff. People like,
who makes money, Bill? I think it's going to the states because
Yeah.
I think like 27 states sued him, 23 states sued him, or something like that. So you'd think that the money's going to individuals. I don't think it is.
no, it goes to the attorneys.
Yes. Yes,
I
it
mean,
does.
look, let's say that we wanted to do a class action suit,
Uh-huh.
and we could prove that we were wronged and our character was damaged, and
Ooh.
somebody goes, "Well, you know what?
I like
That's
this.
worth."
Yeah.
Someone goes, "It's worth $100 million."
Oh,
Boy,
wow. Bill, I can.
Yeah, I am.
I see the
Well,
new car in the
okay,
driveway.
we'll do this on a contingency fee. Well, you know what? But they get usually they might sit there and say, "Yeah, we're going to take 45%, probably higher."
Mhm.
But by the time it's done and everything, you're not going to see that much of that big payout. Everyone's going to think
Here's
you're filthy
$5
rich.
for you.
Here's what's left after all the
Yes.
payout. $5. What's that new Maserati you came in? Well,
Back it
that was a little-
goes.
it would no. The
The
attorney
lawyer.
comes in. Yeah, as a gift to myself from myself.
Yeah, I've been working really hard on some cases, and I gave
And
myself
let
a
me
new
tell you
toy.
something about lawyers.
Uh-huh.
And I've got friends that are lawyers. Some are good and do the legwork, but a lot of times they'll go, "Yeah, I'll take that case." And then you go, "How's it going?" I don't see how we're going to win it. Well,
think
have
you
you
should
thought
settle.
about this? Have you thought about that? Oh, no, let me work on that. And every time I've been in, I've had to work in some legal things.
Mhm.
Every stinking time I had to spoon feed the attorney, and they were good ones because they're like a horse. They got blinders on. Clip.
Well, let's see if I got this right.
Clip.
Let's see if I got this right. They can work their tails off for 2 years doing research, investigations, things like that. Or they can turn around to their client who they're supposed to be representing and say, I'm not too sure about this. They got a really good case on the other side. Now, we have an option here. There's an off-ramp. There is an off-ramp we can take. We can settle. We can settle. I can. No, and then here's the pitch. The real hard pitch for the lawyer. It's selling you on the idea. Look, I may be able to get you $100,000. Now, in reality, you would have won $5 million, right? But he's saying to you, look, I may be able to get you, and I don't know. This is not a slam dunk. I can get you $100,000, Bill, but
I can squeeze him for it.
Yeah, I think I can work him into a corner so he'll do this. And you know, you're the client, and you're tired of all this, and you don't deal in that arena all the time, and you trust your attorney, and you say, well, do you think this is the best route? Oh, hey, look, would I steer you wrong? Listen, this is a good deal if we can get it. I'm not even sure I can get it, but I'm going to walk. And then here's the other thing. Then he walks into the other room, closes the door where the other lawyer is. They've already got the deal done. They say, I can't go out there just yet to look to a stage. So how's the family? Oh, it's good. How's your family? Good. You still a member of the country club? Yeah, right. And then it goes on for another 10 or 15 minutes. All right, that should be enough time. Then he leaves and goes back out to you and says, I had to twist his arm. Man, he was tough. He wasn't going to go, but I kind of pushed him into an area. He finally caved. And we got the deal. It's just we have to get it, in writing, of course.
You know how these things work, generally speaking, whether it's a lawyer or it's your insurance company. And I can speak from the insurance point of view because, there was somebody one time from New Orleans that came up and didn't know how to drive in the icy roads, lost control and hit a vehicle of mine, but he came in with USA Insurance, big insurance company, and trying to do this and that and this and that. And when it came right down to it, it doesn't matter what you think, what's right or wrong. Cops don't even like to write tickets anymore because it's the insurance companies that come in and say, you know what, we'll give you this case if you help us with this one over here where we're surely going to lose. We'll trade off. So in other words, your case, as strong as it is, will be diminished to help the other guy with another case, because when you have a case that's, in the doghouse, so it's done behind closed doors with the insurance companies to minimize their liability across the board. So insurance is not exactly what, they purport it to be. And the insurance guys are probably going, shh, don't say that.
Be quiet. What are you doing?
Be quiet. But it is a game. And you might be sitting there going, yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that person ran that light. Everybody saw it. Well, that's not how it works out in insurance negotiations. They might sit there going, he was 51% responsible, but that makes you 49% responsible in where he ran the light. And I'm sitting there going, and hit you and totaled your car. But if you're 49% responsible, then that changes the whole dynamics now, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Speaking of changing a lot of dynamics, I thought this was interesting in the world of AI that we live in. Mm-hmm. A new investigation reveals a rising trend of private chat box conversations from ChatGPT being subpoenaed and used in criminal and civil legal proceedings. Now, when you talk to your AI device, it
says it's private.
Well, you'd like to think it's private. Yeah, it's a private conversation. But apparently, it is a record of everything you do, so if you're having some kind of an intimate conversation with your AI device, there's a record of it somewhere. And by the way, it shouldn't surprise you. We had as a guest on our show, one of our favorite AI devices.
We have
Doc.
a couple of them, a few of them. Yeah,
we have Doc, and Doc was on the show yesterday. And when it was all over, and the show was finished, wrapped up, I just glanced over at my screen, and there was a printed text printout of every single word that we said in the conversation. So it wasn't just a verbal, chat. There's a document of it somewhere. So, and I would imagine, Bill, that everything you do doesn't just disappear. It's there.
No,
somewhere.
and it probably goes to a government filter that gets to look at it. So if you sit there and go, "Can you tell me how to do this?"
Yeah. Just you and me. We'll talk about it privately.
Yeah. Or, "Hey, how do I do this? And I am not going to do anything. I just want to know." Okay. But then again, you might ask a question. You might be researching a story. I've had this happen to me. And I'm going, well, how would they have done that? Could you tell me as if I were going to do it? I cannot discuss that with you.
Well, wait a second. I have Doc available. Should I ask Doc? Do you think on the right now? How
you
how
could ask
sec-
it.
how
I mean,
secure?
if somebody asked how to build I think you could probably go online and find it. But if you went through AI, and you might say, yeah, I want to build a nuclear device, or to give as an example, it's probably going to say not allowed to do that. And it's down, there's a record of you asking that. So you better hope that conversation is totally innocent all the way up, or, you're screwed.
Well,
And it's on record right now. It's on this podcast. So boom, it's out there for everyone there. Did you hear Bill say this? Yeah.
well, we asked about troop mobilization for our show, right? And that was using AI. So I wonder whether that'll come back to haunt us. We're going to knock on the door from somebody. You've been talking to your AI about troop
Well, I
mobilization.
think that's kind of public record.
I
People
think
have,
so.
people are seeing it, and so the speculation that the AI was doing, that's legit. But again, why isn't news doing this? And why, everything's a distraction, and we need to really focus on the big stories that are out there. The Islamic takeover of this country that's going on right now that nobody's talking about, and it's, we've been sleeping, friends, and we're about to lose everything our parents fought for. What's going on with Iran over there? And it's part of it, and letting them use that oil and oil money to hold the world hostage, hold us hostage. That's something to talk about. Our debt is something to talk about. We cannot give up our military presence, but it's a good talking point for the Democrats. We need to defund the police. No, we don't. Not with the way the world is right now. It's not safe to go out after dinner time. We need to defund the military. We are so far in debt, up and beyond our tuchus, that we need to have a strong military. Otherwise, because it ain't going to save our butts by defunding it.
We were talking about the Islamic situation in our country, and it's a quiet invasion.
It's getting pretty vocal.
It is indeed. Just not too long ago, I guess it was the day before yesterday, there was an interview with what's his name, Abdul Al Said. He was on with Jesse Waters, and at the very end of it, and if I got this right, isn't sausage made out of pork?
Sausage is made out of pork. In the Muslim faith, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have that.
Right.
And then, of course, dogs. Dogs are a foul pet to have. Did you know that?
Well, they don't think much of women either. I'm talking about
they
Islam.
don't respect women at all. So
I saw a video yesterday of a father holding a child about 4 years old and punching his wife, and another child who could walk, trying to stop her father from hitting her mother. But I guess in some segments of that religion, I'm not saying all segments of that religion, but
no.
in some segments of that religion, they take things literally, and they treat women like second citizens, which I find interesting because it would seem that in our country, the feminist movement has embraced.
Yeah, so I guess you're for wife beatings and getting your asses kicked, right?
Well,
that you're subservient to men. I'm asking the women.
Well, let me ask you a question. Have you seen now the National Organization of Women complain about men and women's sports anywhere? I haven't. Nothing.
No.
Crickets. When I was a young man, they were everywhere with their banners for women's rights. But now it's like, no big deal.
I know that we're monitored by some people on the with the Islamic point of view, because they monitor a lot of things, and we can see it in the analytics. I'm going, oh, okay, so they're listening to the show. So here's a question for you in your radical Islamic faith: how many genders are there? I mean, is there how many pronouns are there? Male, female? I don't identify non-binary. I don't think so. I think they see man and woman. So I'm just asking that because I think it's it's important for these radical left people that are embracing that, going, we're with them. They're not with you.
Again,
but they're using you.
I differentiate between, the American Muslim who is an American and a Muslim, and Islamists who are
right.
There's
a difference.
They're more tied to their religious belief than to their country. They're the people who come over here and don't want to assimilate. They want you to accept them for what they are. And as a matter of fact, the ideal situation would be for you to become them.
There are a lot of different religions with a lot of different beliefs. And I'm not here to look at when I was growing up, a good friend of mine was a Mormon. And I guess there's something when a young man becomes 16, there's a thing to where he gets to go before his church and do his sermon, his story. I don't know much about Mormonism, but they do that. I do remember though, what I thought was funny. I used to love to drink Pepsi, and then I kind of got sick when they changed sugar in it. So I switched to Coke. I don't drink any of that crap now, but you couldn't drink Coke. If you went to one of their functions, you can't drink Coke. It's bad for you. You can't have that. But they had Pepsi there. And I said, well, what's the difference between Coke and Pepsi? And as it turned out, the president of the local bottler for Pepsi was a member of the church. So it was all of a sudden an accepted standard drink. You couldn't dance, you couldn't, and Baptists did that too. No smoking, no dancing, but yet you knew they were out there doing that, behind the curtains.
Getting back to Abdul Al-Sayed, which he was on with Jesse Waters.
Yeah.
Listen to how he ends the conversation. Again, we referenced the question was, do Muslims eat pork? Listen.
Because I don't want you guys to blow the country up. Do you know how much the federal budget is now?
No, neither do I. Here's exactly
What's the federal budget?
You guys want to, right? Pete Hegseth, who used to work
answer
for
the question.
Your
Do you know what the federal budget is?
To raise. No. I just want to talk about this. Look, you want to talk about budgets? I'm happy to do that. The guy who used to work on your channel, I think he was like the 6th host on the 5. He wanted to raise our military budget to $1.5 trillion, and you don't seem to be upset about that. What, so we can fight a war we don't know how to get out of, to raise our gas prices $5 a gallon? That doesn't make sense to me, Jesse. We want to talk about the things that we actually should spend on. To me,
I
that's
have a feeling, Abdul, you don't even know how much money the government spends every year. Do you know?
Look, the question, Jesse, to me.
All right, so you don't know. Let me tell you what it is. It's $7 trillion a year. And your plan, Jesse, to take over the healthcare system is $4 trillion.
Here's the problem with it. So to exactly your point, do you know what?
I'm not very good at math. I don't think you're very good at math either, but go ahead.
Clearly you don't. And you don't seem to care. But I don't think most Americans want to spend that much money on military escapades so that the folks stranded on the USS Abraham Lincoln can't even get a sausage for breakfast. I just think that we could do a lot better with our money, Jesse, and I think that's where you and I tend to disagree.
I just disagree.
Mike Rogers agrees with you.
I think if you spend $4 trillion, everything else is going to get really expensive. You're going to look back at Bidenflation, and you're going to wish you were back there. But
all they want on the Abraham Lincoln is a sausage for breakfast, right?
Yeah. Now, I will say this, and not in defense of him, because the predominant sausage is pork, but there are sausages with other meats that can be made and are made. There are beef sausages. There is, boudin, which you get down in Louisiana. And there's different sausages. But the general connotation is you're talking about pork, pig, and that's a no-no from him. But he brought up the Abraham Lincoln, and I'm suddenly going, they can't get, they don't have enough food because it's been deployed so long. The standard deployment for the aircraft carrier is 7 months, but they have supplies to go longer. They were out there roughly 8 months. They were a little bit.
They are also resupplied. They have ships that come out and bring fresh stuff to them.
So they're talking about, the bathrooms, they're moldy, dirty, and everything like that. If you don't clean the bathroom in your house, it's going to get really foul. And usually on a ship, there are people that have certain duties to do. And one of them is there's a whole
maintenance division on a ship where their whole job is to make sure that things are up to spec and that bathrooms are clean. They're cleaned on a daily basis. That's
so. If that wasn't happening, that means you got a bad chain of command, and that's a problem. But it's not the ship's fault, and it's not the government's fault. Because we have had diversity, equity, and inclusion in certain rank and file.
In World War II, the Yorktown spent more time at sea. All right? There are other ships that have spent more time than this ship here. During World War II, I can tell you this as a fact. Forget being at sea, okay? Just being deployed. Look at the guys who sat for months in the woods around Bastogne in France during the Battle of the Bulge. When all they had is a foxhole and a blanket, and they were freezing their tuckuses off. Yeah, they complained. That's part of the job. But they did the job, and I'm sure on the Abraham Lincoln, they did the job too. I would also venture to say that it was some snide reporter out there that figured, I got an idea. Let me ask somebody who was just, and I'm sure there were guys who they not transferred, but their time on the Abraham Lincoln ended while it was deployed, and they probably were flown off it. It's an aircraft carrier. They have helicopters. They have airplanes. They may have flown the people back. They may have said to the guy, how was it out there? I hated it. All I saw was water all the time. Well, that's fine. Some little reporter will take that and make it into a crisis situation. It's not.
Well, that's what they do. They embellish the story. And, you've got a warship out there, a flotilla. It's also a floating hotel. So, look at a hotel. There's a lot of people going in and out of there all the time. You got a maintenance crew that goes in and cleans and does everything. That's their job. Otherwise, I guess every 6 or 7 months, we got to shut the hotel down for about 3 or 4 months so they can go in and de-stench the rooms and whatever. Well, some hotels, they probably need to do that. But
they want you to think, Bill, that it's one group. They all enlisted at the same time. They all got on the same boat at the same time. They all went over at the same time, and they're all equal, they have an equal amount of service time. That's not the case. There's people coming and going.
You've hit your tour of duty. Hey, buddy, it's I had a nice time knowing you. I hope I see you again. Well, I'll be back. I'll be redeployed or whatever. Or when you get stateside, I'm in Idaho.
When are you flying out? I leave tomorrow. I'll be on a flight out tomorrow.
You remember watching the TV series MASH? Mm-hmm. And someone got to go home?
Yeah.
And, of course, that was how they got rid of a character. Well, his chopper got shot down or whatever. But it's the normal rotation of certain crews. Some stay there. That's their whole deployment.
And, Bill.
Some rotate.
I guarantee you that the bathrooms, they may not have been spotless or gleaming, but they were clean because you don't get that many people stuck in a ship and allow your lavatories to go to hell. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. It just does not. It can happen because you have just too many people who would be complaining. You get you say as an officer, I want a crew into that bathroom, and I want it spick and span by the end of the hour or the end of the day or whatever. And they do it because they're ordered to do it.
I'm sure that they've got. Now, I've never done time on an aircraft carrier, so I wouldn't know, or a ship. Not a Navy man. I love the Navy, but I would imagine that in the laboratory, there's probably on the floor a drain. And, because there are some filthy people. We'll just put it that way. Maybe one of the things you do is you go in there and you hose the damn thing down. And then you go in there and spick and span it up, and it smells like a public bathroom again with, government type of, sanitary smells. But either way, they're clean. They're they keep them sanitized.
Well, they have to.
Sure
also, they have to for hygiene, too. People would be getting sick.
Well, disease, yeah. Could you imagine if it was the way that they say? These guys would all be sick with, the whatever you want, Montezuma's revenge. They would all be there.
Hey, like and share the show. Tell your friends about Jim and Bill. It's another day. Jim and Bill, it's another day. Also, you can email us at mail@jimandbill.com. Voting rights groups and various states renewed legal challenges after a federal judge cleared the way related to President Trump's mail-in voting order. So apparently, when they say voting rights groups, that's crap. That's political action groups, that are against Trump. They don't like the order. And by the way, they're all surprised when it happens because they all think that they got the judiciary wrapped up in, on their little finger, because you look at all these different stupid rulings that have come down by these unknown dweeb judges. Some little district judge somewhere will issue a ruling that stops the president from doing something nationally.
Is there a way that we could sit there and put an order through a public notice to all the little magistrates and judges of the nation that know your boundaries? Your jurisdiction is
They did
this.
it, Bill. The Supreme Court came out with a ruling about 6 months ago and told them,
and they're not
stay in your
listening to
lane.
it.
Yes. Well, what happened yesterday, Bill? I'll remind you, this happened yesterday, the day before yesterday, when a federal judge was ticked off at her ruling being countermanded by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overruled her national decision. So yesterday, she came out and said, well, I don't agree with the Supreme Court. Now, as far as I'm concerned, my order stands. Well, the Supreme Court again said, ma'am, there's a pecking order, and you're below us in that pecking order, so you will stand down. And she got
pecked off.
But she didn't like it. And she tried. And that's the difference, folks. The left, they're getting to a point where they're starting to figure they can overrule the way law is, the structure.
They're storming the gates, and that's a nationwide thing that's going on. They might sit there and go, well, we're not the majority, but we will feel like we're the majority, or they'll think we're the majority when we all get together and unanimously storm and crash the gates. Look at the little mob riots that are going on out in California. I mean, they're going on everywhere, all run from the left. They're breaking things, and they're having a hissy fit. They're breaking things and blowing things up to get attention and to get their way. They're spoiled brats.
And you have to look where the articles are coming from. Another case in point this morning, which made me go, The Washington Post is, dare I say, a notorious leftist, left-leaning rag. It never pulled its punches. You always kind of know that, hey, we think Trump is a ninny, and we're going to do everything we can to block his every move. Listen to this. Growing concerns within the Pentagon. This is from the Washington Post. Growing concerns within the Pentagon and allied nations indicate the dwindling U.S. weapons stockpiles from the ongoing conflict in Iran may embolden China and North Korea. Never mind the fact that Biden opened up his armories and his stockpiles to the Ukraine, and They just sent crap over like it was going out of style. And also, I should remind everybody that it was the famous Joe Biden fiasco in Afghanistan where he left for no good reason 89 billion with a B dollars worth of our military equipment behind. Helicopters, jet airplanes that, by the way, had secret stuff on it, tanks, Humvees. All these things were left behind by the Biden administration, and there was never a logical answer for it. Instantly, and this is a true story, we made the Taliban in Afghanistan, we made them one of the largest arms dealers in the world. They had so much of our stuff that they started selling it to other places around the world because they had it now. Because
it's
Biden,
theirs.
Yeah. Now, when they talk about our stockpile here being a little diminished, Trump and the Pentagon have said over and over again, that's not the case. We're fine. We're having stuff made constantly. It's not like we buy stuff and stop buying. It is being generated over and over again.
Well, even if it is, and I believe it is, what purpose does the news serve by pulling up our skirt?
Well, it actually supports Iran.
Damn right it does, and it makes us look weak and opens us for attack. Now, okay, we say we have the weapons, and now we got to use them, but it's on the media. I think that we need to hold media and people that open their big fat mouth and cause problems that shouldn't be. They need to be held accountable.
What you just said, though, is an interesting point. Let's look at step by step. The media is trying to tell everybody that we're running out of equipment.
Yeah.
The media
side are they on?
The media is trying to tell everybody that our troops, the morale is an all-time low because of deployments. We're trying to tell everybody that Trump can make a decision on what he's going to do. By the way, I think Trump knows exactly how he's going to handle this war. It has changed. And, it thinks you have to adjust. It's like when you wrestle. When you wrestle somebody and you have your hands on your opponent, you have a plan, but many times your opponent will move in a way that you have to rethink your plan.
Adjust.
You have to adjust. And I think that's what a war is. And so Trump is constantly changing his moves. But the media wants you to believe that there's no way we're going to win this. It's all a big fail.
But here's the deal. I think he's not only at war with Iran, the Islamic regime, he's at war with the media because the media is I think it was a few weeks ago, it was proven that they are sitting there being controlled by sources outside of the country. So they're getting their marching orders not from us, and they're not independent, to where that they are, just reporting the news as it is the way it is. They are a propaganda machine. So they're getting their bread buttered by China, maybe the Islamic nation. I mean, and if you think they don't have money, they've got tons of money, and they're flooding it into the takeover, the slow boil of America. They're turning up the heat as they build more mosques, and they've got a bunch of them going up in all the major cities. But if you are just a regular average person, I'm just a normal old white guy.
By the way, I think your idea from yesterday is a terrific idea, and that is if we can't discourage these mosques that are popping up around our country from doing the call to prayer on their loudspeaker systems all throughout the day, the answer to that is to have all of the Christian churches that have bells.
Ring them in the morning, ring them at noon, ring them at
night. Hey, ring them at midnight.
I remember, just until a few months ago, right down the street there's a church. They sold that church, and I don't know who bought it. Might be Muslims. I don't know. But they used to sit there. You would hear Amazing Grace rung by the bells, and they would do different Christian anthems. That needs to come back. And you know what? I don't know what the sound ordinances are, but you you could sit there and have a little speaker at your house that plays. You don't want to crank it up to where you're disturbing the neighbors. But, wouldn't that be great if everybody at noons just sat there and said, you know what? I'm going to play Amazing Grace, just to sit there and let them know how strong we are. But they buy these buildings, they put the big speakers on them, and then they do their morning, noon, and night prayer.
I just find it interesting that Al Saib, he made in his little diatribe with Jesse Waters, he made it sound like, we're getting into these wars that we don't need to be in. And he tried to give this illusion that he believes in peace. And if you look at the landscape of what's happening around the world, not all of it, 99 and 4,400% of the violence is coming from his side, not our side. You don't see, Christian terrorist groups taking over airplanes or killing people. Or you don't have in Africa, Christians marching into villages and slaughtering Muslims, but you see it the other way around. Listen, I believe in peace. I believe that if you are a practicing Muslim, you're a good person. You have a place here. You mind your own business. You're an American. You're a citizen. But if you come here and you want to take over what we have, you want to make what is ours yours, and you want to be in control of this great land, I'm sorry. That doesn't hold it. That doesn't cut any mustard with me.
Jim, I got a crazy idea, and I know who I'll call to sit there and see. Do you remember when we used to do Hands Across America?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big national thing. It would be interesting. And, again, if you're a good Muslim, you're a good Muslim. There is the Islamic regime, and they want to play their things loud to get in your face. But there's no reason why, regular God-fearing Americans couldn't sit there and unite the churches and say, let's do bells across America.
Yeah.
Find a focal day.
Bill, it's a good point. There are a lot of people, I can think right offhand of Muslim Americans who are contributors to our society, who are good people. And they should be welcomed. But there's the troublemakers that come here who expect to conquer something, who think that they are. Oh, by the way, there's an element in that group that thinks they're owed something from us, that we shouldn't have all that we have, all that our forefathers fought and died for. That shouldn't be ours. We haven't got a right to it. They think they have somehow a right to our country. And by the way, when someone comes here and when you start seeing things like, they have to have a hijab on when they're getting the license picture. No, that's not assimilating into our society. That's telling us, our society, you bend for us. You bend for us. What good is a picture of somebody with a mask on? If the idea of having your picture, your photo ID on your license is so you can prove you are that person who's driving that car, right? You have to be able to prove it with that face. But if you have a mask on, who the hell's behind that? But that's the kind of thing that they try to do in this country. Anyway, I could go on and on. We lost a gentleman yesterday, and you made a very interesting point about this. Tim Curry died yesterday. Tim Curry was a favorite of mine. I always loved his sense of humor. Everyone talks about his performance in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, he did a great job.
But I happen to like his performance in Home Alone 2 when he played the hotel manager who's trying to be efficient and trying to be diplomatic.
I liked him in Red October.
Hunt for Red October. He played a serious role in that movie, and he was magnificent.
Fabulous movie and worth watching. He was a great actor. But, the LGBTQ community out there is trying to say, well, he was gay and all that. He was never married, but he never made his private life known one way or the other I think one time they asked him about his sexuality and playing Dr. Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And he goes, and his answer to that was, he goes, it was enormously liberating because basically he could screw anybody. That's quite a charge. And it's important to make that believable. So in other words, what he was saying is he took the role and he made it, he brought it to life. But
you also made an interesting point that he was 80, as was Dolly Parton.
Yeah, and there's a correlation here, and there's other people that are dropping like flies at 80. And the reason that I'm saying is these people lived in the time where just about 5-6 years ago, they got this thing called the jab. And I mean,
there's no definite correlation, but it's suspicious. You know,
it is suspicious. And you look at and where's all the Dr. Fauci thing? It's gone away. And
he's disappeared. It's like he was old news.
And it's amazing because they found out that he knew about 2 weeks before. He said everything is okay, that it's safe. He was warned about different things and that it could cause some birthing problems, which it does. And
the other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap things up here is I'd like to find out who it is in the pharmaceutical business that comes up with the names for these new drugs. Now, I am upfront going to tell you that even with all my years of broadcasting, announcing experience, I will screw this up. All right? I'm just saying this up front. The U.S. Drug Agency approved the new treatment drug daraxonrasib. 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 That's what it looks like. Hailed by medical experts as a major turning point for treating pancreatic cancer. Boy, if they can get a cure for that, won't that be special? Won't that be wonderful? But who the hell thought of the name? I don't know what we should call this. Daraxonrasib. I like that. Daraxonrasib. What does it mean? I haven't got a clue. But, fortunately, in the medical world, they'll shorten it to letters. Do you have any DRSB? Oh, good. We'll use that. I'm done, Bill. I haven't got anything more to add for today's show. You got anything you want to talk about before we?
No, but it's Thursday, just before the weekend. They always turn on the spigot, crank up the heat a little bit. But keep your eyes on what's going on with obviously the Iran war. I mean, we've got to keep there's focal points at what we got to keep our eye on. I think, what are we, about 85 days now away from
the elections?
Midterms?
Yeah, about that. Maybe 80.
If something's going to happen positive for Trump, and I'm not sure that it will. I think he's trying as desperate as he can, but they've got a think tank going, okay, if he moves this way, we'll do this, we'll counter. They've got play, and it's not that they're bigger than the right. It's they've put themselves in, like the Germans did.
Just said,
they're in pill boxes.
You just said it's interesting. We have had in the past couple of weeks a lot of talk about this, these different characters in the democratic socialist movement, and they've come up with a platform that says that they want to get rid of much of our Constitution. They want to get rid of the Senate. They want to get rid of the presidency. They want to increase number of judges on the Supreme Court by like up to 20 or something like that. I mean, they've written this down. But now, this week, someone must have said in the Democratic Party, we got to make it sound like it's Trump and his people who want to take away democracy. So now the word is they're trying to say, well, we're not the one who's going to take away your rights. It's going to be the Republicans and Trump. Now, mind you, they've written it down. They've got papers. They've got things written down that say that what they're going to do. And yet now, because people have talked about it and because it's gone over like dare I say, a fart in church, I mean, it's the old proverbial lead balloon. It is all of a sudden they've realized, well, we got to try to pivot and make it sound like it's the Republicans who are the bad guys. I think you have to keep your eyes open and pay attention and remember who the real dangerous ones in this situation are. It's not the guys who are going to keep the Constitution, who are going to keep the Supreme Court, who are going to fund your police department, who are going to make sure that there is bail for criminals getting out of jail. I mean, those are not the people you have to worry about. It's the guys who want to get rid of all that stuff. And that's the Democrats. That's about it. I ain't got no more. You got any more?
Well, you know what? There will be more tomorrow. I can guarantee that. So with that said, have a great day. Until next time, hasta la vista, baby. Hey, we're out of here.
Who are we and why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one? Or split and divide, or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there, you just have to search. Settle for less, you'll be left in the lurch. No left-leaning lies, no socialist swill. It's straight talking truth from your friends Jim and Bill. Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our belief? Are they
All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved.
This is CRN America.